So hi everyone, and warmly welcome all to follow up VTT Sip of Science discussion. And I hope your coffee is as hot and tasty as our discussion topic is today, which is the very exciting and fascinating quantum technology and also the first Finnish quantum computer. So we will discuss today topics such as why quantum technology is important, how we can use the technology, and which industries will benefit from quantum and when. My name is Tua Huomo, and I'm leading VTT's business area, Knowledge Intensive Products and Services, and quantum technology is one of the important part of what we do. So with me today are three expert and quantum devotees, Antti, Himadri, and Jan. And maybe you could first briefly introduce yourself and how you got into the world of quantum. Maybe Antti, if you could start.
Thanks, Tua, and hi everyone. I'm Antti Vasara. I'm the CEO for VTT. And of course, in that sense, quantum computers are, of course, important for us. But I do have a background in physics, so I have done a PhD in physics. It feels like a lifetime ago already, but as a young man, I have even understood quantum mechanics a little bit. So in that sense, that I have a long love for this area, and it's exciting to see that how again things that you have heard about before start turning into real life.
Thank you, Antti. And Himadri.
Yeah, hi from my end as well. It's a bit of a geek show today, so we are all geeks here. Me too have a history in science and technology. I'm currently the program manager for quantum programs at VTT. One of the main focus for me is the co-development project that we are doing with IQM on building the quantum computer. But there are many other things that we will discuss today as well, possibly. My history is in physics and in applied physics. And when I heard about this opportunity, I took the leap the first chance I got. And I'm here.
Great, Himadri, that you are here also. And Jan, how about you?
Well, yeah, thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure. I'm Jan Goetz. I am the CEO and one of the co-founders of IQM Quantum Computers, which is a company that builds quantum computers. I also have a background in physics, so I started my career with a soldering iron in the lab, building up cryostats, cryogenic systems, which is very important for quantum computers as well. And then my path brought me here to Finland, where we started the company together with three other co-founders. And now I'm really happy and excited to build the first quantum computer in Finland together with VTT.
Thank you, Jan, and it's great to have all of you here today. Well, like Jan mentioned briefly, VTT and IQM just announced mid-November that we will start building the first quantum computer in Finland. So, Antti, could you briefly explain that? What exactly does it mean and why we are doing it right now?
So quantum computing, of course, has been in the labs now already for several years. And it's, of course, one of these areas where there's a lot of research interest all over the world. And I think that we are at the cusp of something absolutely huge that's going to be in the world in the coming years and decades, and we want to be helping that a quantum industry, quantum ecosystem really grows in Finland, so that we become in Finland that we know how to build the quantum computers, how to program them, and most importantly, how to apply them also across different industries. And that requires then that we really get our hands dirty with real work. So instead of just kind of like observing what others are doing, it's important that also in Finland we start to build the competence and knowledge around this and start hacking and learning how to do it. And that's why we why we're now doing together with IQM the first quantum computers, aiming for a so-called 50 qubit machine in a couple of years' time, and it's funded by the Finnish government, this first phase. So we are really happy that Minister Mika Lintilä took it as almost like a sort of a mission that he provided us the funding. So we have 21 million euros all together, and I think that with this one we are happy to be among the pioneers in Europe doing this, and it's a great pleasure to have a company like IQM also here in Finland, where this type of world-class competence is, that there is truly a local ecosystem. And when Jan mentioned the cryostats and these kinds of things, there's a company called Blueforce in Finland who's also world leading in this area. So we can be at the forefront here in Finland.
Yes, the event mid-November was very, very, very exciting. So Jan, any comments to that?
Well, of course, for us, this is a great chance, and I really see this as a perfect example of how one can build ecosystems actively, including all the different players, and also take this very critical step out of the research labs into the commercialization, because this is one of the very challenging tasks for deep tech fields like quantum. How do you actually create a market? Because at the moment, there is no market yet. We have to actively create it, and I think the way this is happening now here in Finland is really an excellent example of how this could be done when the different entities are working together. So the startups, the research organizations, but then also we need the political support. And I think this is a really unique situation here, that we have everyone pulling in the same direction and really moving along the same lines, working together, because the topic is so complex and the task is so challenging that one organization alone anyways cannot do it. So we have to partner up. It's kind of a necessary thing to partner up, and this is what we are doing here, and this is what makes me also so optimistic to succeed with this project.
Well, maybe related to your answer, Jan, I mean, people sometimes ask questions that how quantum computers and classical computers are different, and why we are now developing quantum computers. Can you open up that questions a bit to our audience?
Yes, sure. I mean, in a sense, a quantum computer is a computer, like a classical computer. So you have a problem that you program into the machine, and then at some point the machine gives you an answer. And at this level, both work the same. The problem is that we, at the moment, and with the growing complexity of our society and our life, the problems that we have, they become more and more complex. And our classical computers have struggles giving answers in reasonable timescales. Even if we use the biggest supercomputers on this planet, which fill complete halls, they would take years or so to give the answers. And this is the reason why we need to look for alternative solutions. And one alternative solution is a quantum computer, which doesn't use let's say classical physics to solve the problem, but it has access to the quantum degrees of freedom, and this makes the quantumness. So it's a computer, and you can think of it that you just replace basically the processor by a so-called quantum processor, and this processor can take shortcuts in the calculations. So instead of going the classical long way around, it just takes the shortcut and gives the answer in a much faster time. So this is on a very high level, but then of course the devil is in the detail, and how to build such a machine and how to reach the quantum degrees of freedom, and that this is what we are doing in this project. But the outcome for the user is basically the same as a normal computer. You sit there, you program your problem into the machine, and you get an answer back at some point.
Well, thank you, Jan. Excellent answer. But that actually brings the other question that always is raised when we are talking about quantum computers, that what is it that we can actually do with it, and with what type of industries we are helping. And maybe the question now to all of you, so maybe Himadri, if you could start.
Yeah, sure. Excellent points from Jan and Antti, and I think this is exactly the thing, that we have to understand the details of the technology by ourselves, but for the end user, it's the benefits that matter. And there are multiple different industries which will benefit from the quantum computing. And from me, coming a bit from the business background as well, for me, how it looks like if I put myself in the shoes of the end user is it's about decision making. So when an organization or an industry has to make decisions, they make decisions based on many different parameters, and there are complexities in all those parameters, starting from supply chain logistics to process development and product development. And the more accurate the decision has to be, the more parameters we have to take in and do juggling between those. And supercomputers can do that, but they are not going to be enough if we want to take more parameters. So in that sense, any industry which has to make an accurate decision but do not want to spend a lot of time in making those decisions, they need quantum computing. And it's not going to happen tomorrow, but at some point the supercomputers are not even going to be enough, and that is when it will come in.
Thank you, Himadri. How about Antti? How do you foresee the future?
So, first of all, I think that kind of like that whatever we can forecast, or kind of like what we're trying to come up with here will in a few years' time probably feel quite naive, because it's same thing that in the 50s and 60s, when the first microchips were available, or transistors, people couldn't foresee all the uses that we could do with them. But at least I think that one area where I think that we will really go into almost like kind of like revolutionize all things related to materials. So basically when you look at materials, how they are made today, it's quite a lot sort of empirical or sort of trial and error kind of things that what we do in that we know that if we mix two things together, then something comes out, and then you kind of like just try more combinations. And when you think about what's really happening there, it's that all the chemical processes, all biological processes are fundamentally quantum mechanical things. So things work at the atomic level according to quantum mechanics. And like Jan said, it's accurately simulating that is impossible at the moment, immediately when it's even a little bit more complex. But quantum computers are also quantum mechanical systems. So it turns out that they are extremely promising and probably really superior in simulating how materials or chemical processes work, which means then that if you can simulate something, then you can start designing and optimizing them. So it may be then that we will completely revolutionize all the materials that we use by being able to then design them on a quantum computer to have exactly the type of performance that we want, but also in a sense then that prepare them for a carbon neutral world or circular economy, in a sense that we can utilize the type of materials that are much better for circularity, or that processes that don't produce greenhouse gases or other toxic substances or these types of things. So it will mean that we will in a way do these kind of like almost like alien technology when we can design them at the quantum level, and then it means that we might get batteries that are just superior in performance and easy to recycle, or we can make materials that are not at all harmful to environment, and all this because we can then simulate how world really works, how nature works at the atomic level.
Thank you, Antti.
I'm at least excited about that one. So kind of like think about all the businesses and all the things that will happen, but also the benefit that comes to mankind from there.
Thank you, Antti. Your examples were kind of examples that we can, in a way, see solving the global challenges, big challenges that we are facing today with support of this technology. Jan, any other examples you could bring to the audience?
Well, generally, I must say I totally agree, and also from our company perspective, this why do we build quantum computers? The reason being we want to make this world a better place. So having this as a motivation, I think I could of course repeat everything that what was said already, which are the big problems that we have in this world, like climate change and so on. But actually, I think also the quantum computer will at some point impact the life of individuals, but maybe people won't even notice this. So just to give one example, if you're living in a huge city and you're spending 1 hour every morning in a traffic jam in your car because the traffic is not optimized and you have to go to this very important meeting, but you don't make it on time. But maybe at some point we have a quantum computer which kind of coordinates the traffic flow in big cities. And in this way, you reach your working place on time and you are much more relaxed. But actually, as an individual, you won't even realize that there was a quantum computer working in the background because the system is just there, but you will just have the benefits. And I think this is something very similar to the technology, how we use them at the moment. We use mobile phones and a lot of technology, and we have all the benefits and we accept it, but we don't even know anymore what is deep inside and what is actually making the benefit. And I think at some point we will reach a similar level with the quantum computers, that they will affect many aspects of our personal life, of the big life of humankind, but they just do it and it's completely normal. And I think this is really the point when we are there with using the quantum computers at the right spot, so to say.
Yeah. And if I think about already the change that has happened in even our lifetimes, that I'm so old that I have seen that when the first PCs came, IBM PCs and those kinds of things, and even then the kind of like how people thought that there is absolutely no need for them, and kind of like that only kind of like super geeks will have a need for that. And now everybody has so many computers at their homes and cars and their watches and kind of like everywhere. So it's gonna be a profound change, that when we have computing power that's way beyond our imagination at the moment, and all the applications that come from there. But it's also then our task to make sure that we use it, like Jan says, for making the world a better place. So that's a choice that we need to make.
So many great examples and opportunities for, in a way, individuals, businesses, and also for the whole societies. But what the companies and industries, what we should do now? What type of actors are needed to kind of make this all possible? So Himadri, could you open up this question?
Yeah, sure. That's one of the topic which is very close to my heart. So absolutely, it's essential. And I cannot underline the point essential enough, that we bring a strong community around quantum computing and quantum technologies, let's say, as well, because quantum computers, as Jan said, is a machine which can compute, but you have to program it. You have to give it the problem to solve. And the community out there, businesses, organizations, society, they have their own set of problems that they want to solve. And we would like to know what those problems are from the very beginning. So it's absolutely important for us to reach out to all possible stakeholders, including academics, because there is a strong need for a workforce as well. So we have to have education in the academics, but academic research as well. And then research which leads to industry, and then going into the use cases. So we develop algorithms which are use specific. All the examples that Antti and Jan were talking about, they need coding, they need algorithms to be developed. So it's important that we have the community together and we help each other out, and we find the way to solve those problems that will make quantum computing a successful and important aspect for the future.
Thank you, Himadri. Jan, what should be the first concrete steps in an organization? What they should do now if they want to get involved in quantum?
Of course, it depends a bit on the organization, how technical it is, and many big organizations, let's say car manufacturers or banks or so, they already have internally their own quantum teams. They're already quite prepared. But I think what we now, the next step would be actually that we bring the topic of quantum not only to the big decision makers of the multinational corporates, but actually also to the SMEs, to the, let's say, normal business, because quantum will be there for all of them, and getting really a broad reach to all kinds of different business, not only to the very big ones, which have their strategic teams and they spot quantum very early on, but actually create a situation where everyone gets access to the information as well, so that they can make up their own mind and really have the whole support of the society. Because one thing that we also should keep in mind, that it is a quite expensive technology and it needs a lot of funding. And this means that we also need to have the broad acceptance in the society, so that people are actually willing to support the development of this technology. And I think this is important, that we not only focus on, let's say, one certain vertical or so, but really make sure that we reach the whole community and society with this.
Yes, definitely. Antti,
any
comments to this one? No.
Yeah, building on what Himadri and Jan said, that the quantum computer, if we look at the next 10 years, which is for some companies, it's a very long time, but for some industries, it's actually a sort of a short cycle. But still, like in the next 10 years, there will be areas that where quantum computers will already be applicable, so that then there's a limitation still that quantum computers are superior in certain types of calculations, and in certain other types of calculations, we still need loads and loads of normal computers and supercomputers and those kinds of things. So that there's a different types of we need different tools for different industries. But in those areas that where the quantum algorithms are going to be superior, then in those areas it's important that already now companies start understanding then that, okay, how it's used and kind of like how to apply it, because it's a very different way of approaching the problem that how you do it on a quantum computer, and especially, for example, in these kind of like material science or energy side. If you look at the investment cycles of heavy industries, they make investments that last for 20, 30 years. And if you think about then in there that today you're making perhaps a multi-billion euro investment into some industrial plant or this type of thing, and it's supposed to last for 20 years. In that time frame, it might be then that already quantum computers are in operation and they can design then something which is superior. So you now need to already now in certain types of industries start thinking about then that what does this do to your investment cycle, and how to make it and how to create a little bit of kind of like flexibility there that you can take in then that if there's a new process that comes then in the 2030s, that you can take it into use and not stuck with something which is then going to be old-fashioned. And it's a matter of creating scenarios and understanding these different paths, and there's high uncertainty. So we don't know about the timing. It might take 10 years longer or whatever, but still that you need to start considering that.
Yes, exactly. And one thing I think it's sure that we need to get our young people to get interested in different areas of related to quantum technology. And it's not only about physics and maths and software and algorithms. It's also about kind of understanding that how these new technologies actually influence and what type of problems we want to solve and those type of things. So in many fields of the education and academics, we need to understand this. So that I think it's important. But one question which always come up when we are talking about new technology and something that we are not quite sure that what will happen is that that we tend to ask that where are the risks, that what problems might come out of this technology, and this is something that we should also openly discuss. So Himadri, do you have any thoughts related to this area?
Yeah, definitely, because I think you touched upon a very important point there, and this is true for any new technology. And one of the thing that people already started discussing about quantum computing is, it will make our encryption redundant, and we will not have any data security anymore. But this is in a way plausible, but we have to be prepared, and the way we are preparing is, for example, we have this post-quantum cryptography that we are developing. So there has to be solutions coming up to that. But that does not mean we do not go into that technology. We do not withhold the technology. So we move forward, and as scientists, I think we have a responsibility to identify these kind of risks or this kind of potential things which will not go in the right direction. And we have to flag and we have to find solutions for that. And I'm sure we will do that as well. And as Antti and Jan said, there are a lot of uncertainties still, and we don't know the full potential of quantum yet, and we don't know the applications, and we also don't know the risks. But we have to be mentally prepared how we deal with it.
Yeah. Thank you, Himadri. Quantum train is in a way moving now fast, and like Antti said earlier, that you witnessed this a time when we saw the first PCs and kind of conventional computers. But what is it, Antti, that you expect to see during your career that comes out from this quantum technology, and kind of in a very some concrete examples?
I think that we will see that things that are now considered to be impossible become possible. And that's already kind of like in a way that even if we kind of like look now 40 years back to 1980, before real personal computers and those kinds of things, many things felt impossible then. Now they are all natural and kind of like used every day. And it doesn't feel like the revolution, but if we would now be transported back to the 1980s, then my God, it would be very, very different. But then kind of like just looking at these things, that I think that kind of like materials, energy, all these kinds of things, so that I think that we will be able to make carbon neutrality a reality. I think that we will be able to make circular economy a reality, and we can recycle. I think that also on the medicine side, pharmaceuticals, that we can do huge jumps in being able to design pharmaceuticals for maybe even personalized pharmaceuticals, that we can each be treated in a way that kind of like it best fits us, but also then that we can find solutions to diseases that where there are no cures at the moment. And these types of things will make a huge difference. But I think that the most fascinating thing is that when we have, for certain type of things, we have almost like limitless computational power to solve things. I'm sure that we can come up with even sort of just things that we can't forecast. But I think that what also Himadri was talking about, the ethical use and kind of like thinking about the risks, is important. And I think that we are a bit wiser than before in starting to think about these things beforehand, so that we are designing these things with sustainability in mind, and not kind of like then trying to fix it afterwards, which is done.
Mm. Anything you would like to add to that, Jan?
Yeah, I think so. When let's say thinking into the future, one thing that I hope that happens, and I'm sure it will happen, is that we kind of demystify also a little bit quantum. At the moment, for people who are not experts in the field, it's a little bit kind of mystic and they don't understand it. And the reason is that as humans, usually we learn a lot by observation. So we see that the apple falls down and then we understand gravity. And quantum is very hard for humans to observe. You need sophisticated labs. And I think, or I hope that at some point we live in a society where it's normal for a doctor to use a quantum sensor to map the brain, or it's, I don't know, let's say it's normal for my grandchild to sit on my legs and say, well, why don't you just use a quantum computer to do this, without thinking, oh, quantum, what is this? And I think this is something that I hope to see during the course of my life, that it just becomes normal as any other normal technology that we use at the moment.
Yes, and maybe we all could kind of take this as one of the key tasks for us, that we start to communicate really concrete examples and kind of bring this kind of technology and what we are doing to the knowledge also for the general public. Himadri, this has been really exciting discussion, and we have been talking about many topics around this quantum technology today. But what would be the one key thing that you would like that the audience would take with them of this discussion?
Yeah, I completely agree with Jan, and that was my point that I was going to make as well, that we need to demystify quantum and not make it any intimidating at all. There are things which are complicated, but we can explain it even though we don't see it. So that we need to actively do, and I would really hope that the audience that we have today will take the time and interest in learning about quantum. The world that was 100 years ago and now is very different, but many of the things that happen still are classical, and quantum is kind of a huge leap forward to that. So it needs some active thinking from our perspective, from all as humans. So we should start thinking quantum, let's say.
Start thinking quantum. So Antti, what should everybody know about quantum now after this discussion?
I think that that quantum is a major opportunity. I really like what Jan said about demystifying it, but it's also important to understand that not everybody needs to study quantum mechanics or kind of like understand deep down how it works. But it's something that where we also here in Finland can make a real difference, and this can be one of the areas that where we can also contribute extremely positively then to making world a better place. So, but also then that it can bring wealth and prosperity to Finland by creating new types of jobs in here, and in that sense also make Finland and Europe a great place where to live.
Well, thank you, Antti. Thank you, Himadri, and thank you, Jan. And have a great quantum future.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.